I'd like to read this letter that was composed by Missoula Climate Strike student members directed towards Superintendent Rob Watson and MCPS educators. In solidarity with the global climate strike movement, from Friday, September 20th to Friday, September 27th, we will be striking every day. After that, we will go on to strike one Friday per month and increase our pressure if needed to force a change in our schools. When students strike against schools, they further threaten the legitimacy of an already rapidly crumbling society and the education system that reproduces it. Despite the overwhelming scientific consensus that our future is hurtling towards catastrophe, our education seems more interested in preparing us to compete in a labor market that will soon be stranded, like all assets, by climate change. It is absurd that we students are supposed to sit, listen, and put our trust into what is being taught while the world around us unravels. With a future of climate chaos and an education system acting like everything is business as usual, we cannot believe the burden of demanding an appropriate education is left to us. So, our strike says we refuse to just sit and listen any longer. It says we reject a curriculum designed to reproduce the same system destroying our planet. It says our future is being stolen from us and we will not comply. It says we demand knowledge which helps us confront the many crises of our generation, the many crises our generation has been left with. Perhaps we should be thankful our education is so unethical and complicit because it has driven us to find real answers outside of our schools. Learning and taking inspiration from Greta Thunberg and the hundreds of thousands of young people striking against their schools, we can confidently say we are actually learning quite a lot on our own. We are not just being schooled in what you and the American public education system have designed. Instead, we are learning to ask questions through our rejection of institutional public education. Why is our supposedly democratic government so obviously complicit with profit instead of the stewardship of the living world? Why aren't we being taught the reasons for such unequal development and unequal responsibility for the crisis? Why are we being taught to confuse schooling for learning? In an ethical education which appreciates justice, what things should we be learning? Instead of being passively obedient to this system, why aren't they taking risks to fight? That was actually hilarious. Why aren't they taking risks to fight for our future? We feel it would be even more absurd to be punished by the very schools entrusted to prepare us for the world we did not make, but we will willingly accept the consequences and will not compromise for half measures. You should accept this difficult conclusion we made to strike and work with us to develop a meaningful curriculum which gives Missoula students the knowledge and skills we need to solve this crisis. We are saddened to learn as our educational leader, you are directing the district to be viewpoint neutral. It's unethical to ride the fence as a leader who should be boldly educating young people facing probable ecological collapse as opposed to protecting a political impossibility of neutrality. You need to immediately reconsider your role in helping to defend the status quo and sealing our chaotic and uncertain fate out of some obligation to tradition and culture. Step up or stand the fuck aside. Next, despite your absurd claim that teaching climate change is a curriculum standard, none of us feel this is reflected in our experience inside your schools. Every subject area should be directed to explore climate change as the only context in which our learning is embedded. From redefining democracy to permaculture agate to zero carbon cooking classes, especially since this crisis changes everything. Perhaps your gamble is to wait us out, to hope this moment will just go away and to assume students will just not care enough to stick to this strike, and perhaps you are right. Are you preparing for the case that you are wrong? Wrong about our capacity to assess you and your performance of ethical leadership, wrong about this strike, wrong about youth today, wrong about the future. In closing, we wonder if it ever occurred to you why your generation back in your day did not strike against the same school system and lack of action that has brought about the extremely unjust world you are handing off to us, that you are pushing onto us. It's a shame if you haven't. And it is doubly a shame if you continue to leave this burden of courage and leadership to our generation. We guess the best we can hope for is that this is all a test or some new approach to learning that you brought to MCPS, in which you are seeing if given a nearly impossible task, our generation will rise to the occasion while others don't lift a finger. Because that's the reality either way.